Be joining us from the LEAP team. Tom's the Strategic Partnerships Manager here at LEAP. And we'll also be joined by Michael Gogan, who heads up the Education Division for Company Cam. So Tom and Michael will be talking with us today about some digital tools that you can use to set and meet your customers' expectations during the sales process and even on throughout production as well. So we'd love to hear your questions and comments throughout the presentation today. So again, feel free to utilize that questions box on your control panel, and we'll get to those either as we go, and we'll also have a dedicated time for Q&A at the end. So feel free to drop your questions in there. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and welcome Tom. Tom, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with LEAP?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. If you could just give me a thumbs up that you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Yes.
There we go.
Sorry.
Okay, great.
Yep. You're good.
Thank you. No,
Thank you.
I just want to make sure. Earlier in the week, I was having trouble with this headset. My AirPods died, so I've been scrambling to make sure I got good audio. But yes, anyways, thank you, Kelly. I am the Strategic Partnerships Manager here at LEAP. But I think more importantly for those on the call, I've been in the industry for 20 plus years as a roofing contractor, a laborer, an installer, project manager, sales, and have been in the technology space the last 4 or 5 years, and have been able to really sit down with companies and understand, what challenges they're experiencing and how technology is helping to solve those. So I'm super excited to have Michael on. Michael and I have known each other for quite a while. I've been going through, if you will, the circuit of trade shows and events and meetings, and so we've been able to exchange ideas and experiences along the way, and feel that we have a good pulse on what contractors are asking for, and what they're utilizing to make them more successful even in today's challenging times. So for those of you that don't know, LEAP's a digital point of sale application. It digitizes the entire sales process. So from estimating to contracts, proposals, submitting credit applications, housing your sales presentations, your manufactured PDFs, videos, all those type of things that you do during the sales presentation. And then, like I said, I'm joined by Michael Gogan from Company Cam. Michael, I don't think needs any introduction. I'm sure a lot of you know Michael, but I'll hand it over. I should say Michael is the host of the Talk About It, that I'm sure a bunch of people just got off of there and just came right over here, right?
Yeah, hopefully they just got off watching Talk About It. Yeah, super pumped to be joined or to be joining you guys today. I do the education and business development with Company Cam. I don't have the background in the contracting world that Tom has, but I was in the education world. So I was a teacher and high school administrator for the first 6 years of my career. And what I love is now that I've dove into the contracting space via technology, I've spent a ton of time just trying to learn the industry as much as I can, but I'm also a homeowner. And so I feel like I have a really unique perspective on, what contractors want, the pain points that they're having, but then also what would the homeowner want and what works great for the homeowner. So I think Company Cam and LEAP really align well. And so I think that what we have today is going to be great for just contractors overall of, hey, what can you do to really exceed expectations for your homeowners? And yeah, Company Cam is I put communication first on the slides. Company Cam is a communication and documentation tool to help you contractors stay connected to your jobs.
Yeah, if there's anybody that hasn't heard of Company Cam, I'd love to just put that in the chat, because I'd be surprised if anybody isn't aware of the great things that Company Cam's doing. I know we were at a show 4 or 5 months ago, and it's like everybody that came up to your booth was like an existing user of Company Cams.
Yeah, that was a tough one to get sales at. So
right. So before we really dive in here, I just want to kind of make sure that we set what the current landscape looks like and what the state of the industry is. And with the pandemic and everything, contractors have really had to shift their focus from in-home appointments to being able to do them virtually and digitally, and really leverage the technology that's available to them. With that being said, I know, we've had several companies on that have stated that they thought they'd see a higher remote engagement, and given the opportunity, customers have actually invited contractors to their house. So I was a little surprised by that, but it's about 50%, but which is a lot higher than it's been in the past. And so, nevertheless, it's really important that contractors are able to pivot to this digital environment where they can operate even remotely. And so I know, Michael, you probably have some stories too, but there's a lot of companies that have been able to expand their footprint via these digital solutions. And if they've got if their home base, I'm sitting here in Baltimore, and if I had if I was a contractor and I had a lead in Virginia, I may not want to drive that hour and a half to get there, but with all the tools and stuff that are available to me today, I can almost operate in those markets via remotely, kind of like what we're doing here today.
Yeah, and it's just so much easier to get the appointments to line up as well. Because, you were talking about earlier that, we were doing the circuit, we're on the road all the time. And, if we're going to do some sort of contracting project at our house in the winter and, early spring or even late fall, it's difficult to catch it to where I'm home and it's easy for us to get to where we could meet with the contractor. And so I think that the times have really led contractors to have to diversify how they can, communicate. And I think that's going to be a great change because, like you said, it's about 50-50. And, once this pandemic is past us, you still have that ability to do all of this virtual meetings and do all these things. And so I think that's one really important thing to keep in mind throughout today is what we're talking about is great in today's times, but it's going to work whether there's a pandemic or not.
Yeah, that's a great point. We were speaking with a contractor a few weeks back, and they mentioned that they're more of a two-call close company, and where they've seen the remote and digital, I should say the remote aspect really helping out is in that second call. So not having to go back to the home and being able to facilitate the close electronically or digitally.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's a lot of excitement from people. I hear it all the time from our sales and support teams. People are excited that Company Cam and Leap partnered up. And what does that mean? Well, at a high level, we want to align as industry thought leaders and bring you more value. We know that contractors are utilizing both Leap and Company Cam, and so we want to make sure that we're communicating as companies. We're sharing insight and feedback with each other. To make sure that we not only make our product better, but your lives easier. And so, we definitely are working to do that. There's a lot of kind of handoffs that happen in the sales process, and a lot of those involve, or I shouldn't even say the sales process, the complete process where, you're going to utilize Company Cam at different stages throughout the project, and you're going to utilize Leap throughout the project. And so there's a lot of kind of back and forth as you go through that process, and we're both very complementary to each other in that. So as you can see on your screen, some of the things or places where we align and add value is increasing the visual appeal of presentations and communications, providing transparency. And again, we'll dive into some of these here a little bit deeper, but all these technology tools allow you to exceed your customers' expectations. In today's world, everybody's looking to save time, not waste time, get a good value, but also get an education too. A lot of people don't do these projects but more than once or twice in their lifetime, and so they're unaware of what to expect. And so the more value you can bring in communicating that process, the better.
Yeah, the one thing I would add there is when we were talking about putting this webinar together, I think so often contractors jump the first word there and they go right to, I want to meet expectations for the homeowner. And it's so important in the process that you set those expectations because everybody's got slightly different expectations. And so if you don't help set the expectations for the homeowner, you're kind of chasing the unattainable as far as what you're going to achieve. And so I think that as we go through today, really think about, hey, how can I set, and then how do these tools, Company Cam and Leap, really help me meet and exceed expectations?
Yeah, that's a great point. I know there's we talk a lot about this in when we're doing demos of Leap, and a lot of companies incorporate even a what to expect, as simple as that may sound, but a what to expect brochure or piece of paper or PDF where it says, these are the steps of replacing a roof, and this is what, there's going to be tens of thousands of nails coming off your roof, right? So, but absolutely, I think we'll definitely dive more into that. So Michael, I'm going to hand it to you if you want to kind of walk through some of these, and we'll talk about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, Leap and Company Cam are both huge in the full process. But how do I make that sales process more visually appealing, or what goes into a good visually appealing sales process? And so, from Company Cam's perspective, and obviously Tom can talk from Leap's perspective, your tool has to be easy, and it's got to be easy for both your team in the field, your sales team, but it also has to be easy for whoever you're sharing it with. If you can't expect them to download a whole bunch of stuff and click through a whole bunch of stuff. You have to be able to present them that information in a visual way, but it's got to be easy for them to digest. And Company Cam really allows that. We'll talk about how you can communicate with your documentation a little later. But overall, you have to make sure that, am I able to communicate and have a visually appealing sales process that's easy for the client, easy for my team. If you want to add just a little bit from Leap's perspective there, Tom.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I think that's really important because I remember back being a sales rep, it's like I'm carrying around, all these brochures with me. I've got all I'm standing out there like a scarecrow with two shingle sample boards. I'm in the shade one time, the sun the next time, on the roof to see what those look like. And you don't need to do all that, right? There's so much technology out there that keeps it really simple and easy, where you just have an iPad and a phone, and that's all you need for your presentations. And so keeping it easy, keeping it simple is really important. And Leap and Company Cam definitely help in both those regards.
Yeah, and then clear and clean. I think that, again, obviously it's got to be easy for them to access, to get it and see it. And then when you do provide that visual dynamic, make sure that it's clean, it's clear, it's really easy for them to comprehend and digest what's going on. Obviously Leap and Company Cam both have ways that you can do this. But I think that the key is make sure that it's easy to read, easy to understand. That really adds to the professionalism of your company. And so we'll talk about, that's the fourth point, but clean and clear, very important there. Obviously, I don't know if there's much to add from Leap's angle, because that's what you guys are doing, is creating clean, clear, easily understandable documents.
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, not too much there to add. I think it's pretty clear, right? Having a contract that's on a carbon copy paper where you're crossing off windows because you're not doing those on this job, or you're crossing off something about the HOA because it's not applicable. All of that just leads to a appearance that you're not a well put together company, right? That you're displaying things that aren't relevant to my project, that I don't necessarily care about or need to know. So keeping that very unique and specific experience to that customer is really important, and adds to setting the expectation that you're going to provide a professional presentation. I'll just move on to the consistency aspect of it, and then I'll pass it back to you, Michael. But the way that Leap works, it makes sure that your sales reps are following a process. And a lot of people have, a sales process that they follow, and again, a lot of people don't. So what's really nice about Leap is that it makes sure that you're going through your company history, and that you're offering financing at every job, and not just as a last ditch opportunity to close a deal, right? You're widening the FICO band, so you're providing an option to more customers, and it's increasing the likelihood that you're going to close that deal and at a higher margin, and to kind of take that competitive nature away from price. So the consistency there in the way that a sales rep flows through the presentation is really important.
Yeah, and from Company Cam's angle, I think that everything you said there, Tom, is dead on. I think from Company Cam's angle, that process has to be in what photos are my sales guys taking, and are they taking the same photos every single time? And what you're going to see is you're going to start to find that the guys that do it and they are consistent, those are the ones that are going to close at higher rates. And those are the ones that when somebody calls, exactly what documentation they had. as opposed to going out and I took some photos. Hopefully these work. Hopefully I can close these deals. And so figure out what that perfect final sales proposal looks like as far as what photos do I need, and then work your way backwards and make sure everyone knows, hey, these are the photos that I need to be taking. Really train to that process, and then from a professional standpoint, it's easy, it's clean, it's clear, it's consistent. You now, no matter how big your sales force is, you now look like, hey, these guys are the real deal. I talk about the McDonald's analogy a lot, where it's, you know, my kids love McDonald's, and it doesn't matter what state or city we're in. It's the same, not so great food, but it's the same every single time. I know
Yeah.
it's consistent. It's just not great, but you want that with your company, no matter how large your sales force is.
Yeah, it's really important. I think the other to more what you were saying there, it allows a company that is maybe 5 to 10 sales reps look like the company that's 200-300 sales reps, by being consistent, being professional, clean and precise, and easy to use, right? It allows you to, in essence, level the playing field, right?
Yep.
It's really important that you're providing that perceived value, that you're a professional organization and that you have a process in place. It's goes back to what we were talking about with setting the right expectations and following through with that.
Yeah, and I think too, the fact that both, point one was make sure it's easy for both internal and external people to utilize and see and have access to. I think that really levels the playing field also, where you can create some really impressive documents, and what looks like, hey, that probably took forever, but you're utilizing technology to get to where it's not taking forever. But now it's, you're really making it seem as if, hey, we're a big organization. This is what you're going to get with us. Obviously, you don't want to tell them false information, but you know that first proposal goes a long way in setting the stage of, hey, what are we going to get from us as a company? And so I think that using both of our tools really helps level that playing field as well.
Yeah, Michael, you probably see it a lot like Leap does too. There's companies where it's everyone from the one person company to the 200, 300, 400 sales reps companies that utilize the platforms, and I think what you present there is an opportunity to be viewed as an equal and not have to feel that you need to compete on price. So it really allows you to demand the price that you should be getting paid by being professional and being consistent, and having a compelling case for why you demand that price.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing all those little things throughout the sales process. And then like we'll talk about, doing them throughout the build and the, final inspection, those kind of things. It's just so important for you to do that. And this is, I when we first started talking about this webinar, this one was like, man, this is a company cam slide. I think there's so much here as well, though, that goes in for Leap also. But why are pictures so important? How are they helping with this setting and meeting expectations? And one, they tell the full story. You can't fake the photo, and so you're telling the full story. It's going to make it so much easier to communicate things that maybe you would have done in the typical environment where you're maybe one-on-one sitting next to the customer, pointing things out. Um, Pictures are going to allow you to communicate those things, eliminate disputes. I love this one because obviously we want to set and meet expectations. Sometimes expectations maybe are perceived to not be met because of pre-existing damage or things that your team didn't actually do. And so having those pictures will help you get the train back on the track sometimes and eliminate disputes. And then finally, you talked earlier, Tom, about transparency, but getting the right things paid for. And this is, one-on-one with the homeowner and the contractor. Maybe it involves insurance, but having those pictures are going to help with that transparency so that you can get paid for what you deserve to be paid for.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny story. I remember I was working with a homeowner, and we did their project and it came out beautifully, but they wanted to hold up the last $2,000 payment because we had damaged, or she said we had damaged a little post on her fence, and the cap or whatever had fallen
Mhm.
off, and we were about ready to pay to have a new one put on. And I said, just wait a minute, I think I have the photos from before, when we were just estimating this job, and thankfully I did, and it was already gone at that point. So we didn't, it was very easy to settle that dispute. Whereas without the pictures, there'd be no evidence that those type of things happened.
Absolutely. And and I love to see the best in all humans. And so I'm sure
Right.
there's times like you don't know whether or not she knew her fence was damaged or not, but there are
Absolutely.
times where you're going to be doing things and they don't even realize it was damaged, and they give it a little closer look because you were there. And so
Yep.
just, making sure that you have that transparency is so important. And
Yeah.
without that transparency, it's going to be nearly impossible to meet expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about kind of how the two, Company Cam and Leap work together throughout, you know, throughout the project. Let's call it from before the
Mhm.
project starts, during that project, and then utilizing the software after the project. And I think really, you know, in the beginning, it's a lot of combination, right, of Leap and Company Cam. Um, I don't want to speak for Company Cam, but you obviously want to capture all those photos of the property at that initial appointment so that you have those before pictures, right? So if there is a rip screen or a damaged gutter, you already have those type of photos, and I'm sure it allows for communication of setting the right expectations of what you're going to do. But go ahead and Michael, share with us just a little more about what contractors, how they're utilized Company Cam in the beginning of a project.
Yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
start at the estimate side.
Yeah, from the estimate side. And I think that, you want to have the one really nice thing about Company Cam is you have everything in one place. And so essentially that first time you step foot on the property, you're creating this living document that's going to go from the time we step foot on the property to the last time we step foot on the property. And so everything's going to be in one place. And the big thing, I think it might be the next slide, Tom, if you want to just jump to it. The big thing that really is great with this is, yeah, the timeline feature. And so, what the timeline feature does in Company Cam is it is a live link that you share with your client. And as you are doing that initial inspection, they're seeing everything that you're seeing as you're taking pictures, as you're taking video, as you're marking the photos up, everything that you're doing while you're on the roof, or wherever you're at on the property, they're seeing that. And so that timeline feature is great in that initial sales stage, just because when you get off the roof or you're done doing the inspection, hopefully you've painted that picture, using the timeline link, and they say, well, obviously I've got a damaged roof. How much is it going to cost to fix? As opposed to them waiting for you to get down and say, yeah, there's a lot of damage up there. You're able to show that in real time, mark stuff up, take videos, so that they can truly see, hey, what are we working with up there? And they don't have to get up on the roof with you, those kind of things. So that timeline feature from in the sales process is an extremely valuable feature. And so if you want to, you can go back to the previous slide,
Yeah.
but that's how Company Cam in the before, in that initial part of the sales process, is so valuable.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll say, as you're utilizing Leap and you generate that estimate and you're going through now that kind of presentation portion, those photos are definitely valuable to help, tell the story of what's going on with their property, whether it be their roof siding, bathroom, whatever it may be, right? Really helps kind of tell that story. That those pictures don't lie, right? If there's something damaged, it's damaged. The proof's in the picture. But also, after you go past that sales presentation portion and you get into the proposal section, I think it's really nice to be able to add those kind of visual elements. So to be able to add those photos that you've taken before and include them as part of the proposal is really valuable. And I know, today there's not a seamless integration between the two, but you are able to save those photos, upload them into Leap and include them as part of the presentation, or even as part of as part of the proposal or as part of the contract. So you'll be able to utilize those when you're presenting.
Yeah.
And then, assuming you close the job, right? We're all one call closers. But assuming you close the job there, Michael, tell us more about how Company Cam is utilized during the actual project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a stage that just the contractors in general have a tough time with because, like you said, we're one call closers. That most business or most contractors as owners started off in the sales game and they're hungry. They love to go after that piece of it. Company Cam just makes it so easy for your team that's going to go out and do the installation to see, hey, what did my sales guys see? What did they take pictures of? What notes did they make when they were there? So now you can kind of get that pre-game of like, what am I going to run into here? And then as they're doing the job, things that come up, making sure that you're taking pictures of all the different stages. And that's whatever fits your personal company. But, if you're ripping off shingles and you've got rotted decking, it's going to be a lot easier to get Mr. Jones to pay for that rotted decking if you have a picture of it, as opposed to just saying, Mr. Jones, that initial proposal that we gave you, it's going to be a little more expensive now because we had to replace some decking up there. And so, just taking those pictures throughout the build and then utilizing the good work that you did to market at the end of the job, I think is so important. Making sure you're getting those completion photos, making sure you're taking before and after photos to really market the job that you did.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, as you are setting the expectations on the front end, during that sales appointment, that you're following through with that, right? And you're documenting the journey. Yeah, and so I imagine contractors are I just see them like feverishly taking photos up there, throughout the project, making sure that they capture every stage of it, because a lot of homeowners don't know what's going on up there. So that's a really
yeah, they're not going to get up there. That timeline that I talked about from the sales, that sales perspective, that thing that you can keep that link live and it can stay on all the way through the build. And so, depending on your process as a contractor, a lot of contractors just leave that timeline live so that you can say, hey, this is what you can expect from us. Here's a link so that you can check in and see where we're at on those expectations. We expect to have the tear off done sometime mid morning. Here's a link. You can check and see. We'll take a picture when we're done with the tear off. So just lots of little things that really increase that communication with the homeowner.
Yeah, and then I know you and I have talked about it, but I'd love for everybody else to hear kind of how do contractors utilize those before and after pictures, and what are they doing to generate referrals and marketing and that aspect once it post completion?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll take the second part of that question. The biggest thing for you to get referrals and to get organic marketing is what I like to refer to it as, is you have to for sure meet, but it's oftentimes you have to exceed expectations. What little things are you doing throughout that process that make the homeowner say, wow, that was really awesome? That's what's going to get people to go out and refer you to their friends, their family, and to talk about your company. As far as before and afters, in Company Cam, you can seamlessly tie two photos, the before and the after together, has your logo on it. Again, kind of comes back to some things we were talking about earlier where it looks like it took a lot longer to create a before and after than it really did in Company Cam. It takes seconds. But getting those out on your social media, tagging the homeowners, thanking those homeowners for allowing you to do that job is just a great way to, A, thank your clients, which you should do in some way anyway, but B, it gets your good work out there. Um, first first client I ever had do it, Tom, he tagged me in the post. He forgot to tag the homeowners. I reminded him to tag the homeowners, and I believe it got 9 shares, which I thought was an extremely high number. But
That was your family, Michael?
No, it wasn't. It was a contractor that I said, hey, uh, Will Bates, Central Roofing. I'll give him a shout out. I said, Will, put this out on social media. And so, yeah, it probably was Will's family, but no, I got 9 shares, which is a great thing. Get you in front of 9 new audiences out there in social media land. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's really important to utilize all those resources to your advantage. skip through here. So our next slide, when expectations are set and able to be met, you get happy customers. And this goes back to kind of what we were talking about, right? By setting the right expectations, you're not going to disappoint them when you've told them up front that there's going to be a lot of loud noise on your roof. We're going to be there at 7 a.m. and there's going to be a lot of banging and take down any pictures off the wall because the house might rattle and we don't want those to fall. And so by setting those clear expectations up front, your customers, well, at first may be a little taken aback and may be uncomfortable with the idea. They're not going to be mad at you at the end that you didn't tell them. You set those expectations, you followed through with it, and at the end now you've got a really happy customer.
Yeah, and that's what we were just talking about in that previous example. Is it's a lot easier, Tom, to have them take pictures off the wall and to know that, hey, we're going to wake you up at 7 a.m. than to surprise them with it and try to ask for forgiveness afterwards. Just let them know, give them the worst possible scenarios. And that's another thing I love is, going back to the rotted decking, and I'm sure that there's examples in every vertical, but, let them know that entire deck up there could be rotten and we'll have to replace it all. And then now they've got the worst possible scenario, and you get up there and obviously the whole deck's not going to be rotted. So even if there's just a little bit, it feels like a win for that homeowner, so that they understand what could be up there as opposed to surprising them with it after the fact. I just think that setting the stage of, hey, this is the possible scenarios when we get up there and start tearing off. It'll be A, B, or C, or A or B. Just wanted to let you know that, educate them on that, so that throughout the process that it's really easy then to meet those expectations.
Yeah, I think it's important that the sales reps are knowledgeable about what that experience is going to be for the homeowner, and so that they're able to set the right parameters and right expectations. And something I touched on this earlier, something we see a lot of contractors do is include kind of a what to expect as part of their proposal, and attach it as to the contract, so that they know that again, there's going to be a lot of nails that fall off your roof. We're going to make a lot of noise. There's going to be material in your driveway, maybe a dumpster in your driveway, and letting them know about all these kind of disruptions to their daily life, so that they're not surprised and caught off guard when those come. So I think it's really important that those things are outlined, right up front during the sales presentation. And utilizing the photos to tell that story as well, right? Taking photos of all those areas and even calling out maybe potential problem areas, right? You've got a valley that's just holding a lot of water. Hey, we didn't include any plywood, but it looks like you're probably going to need plywood in this valley. Just so you're aware, here's what the pictures look like. Here's what it's telling us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that list that you're talking about, I think that's such a great thing to have and to share with the homeowners. And I guarantee someone on the call is listening and they're saying, man, I don't have that list, or how do I create that list? Start writing down everything that anyone's ever called and complained about. And no matter how frivolous the complaint may be, that's how you start to build that list. Because even if one homeowner said, man, they left nails behind, well, yes, we know that the industry, that you're taking off thousands and thousands of nails, but the homeowners don't understand that, and they don't expect that. And so every complaint you've ever received, build that into your list. Complaint on nails. There's potential that nails get left behind. Complaint that there's a dumpster in my driveway. High likelihood that we're gonna have to put a dumpster on your property somewhere. Oftentimes it's in a driveway. Just, it's easy to come up with that list, and I think getting that to the homeowner is such a good idea, Tom.
Yeah, and making sure that it's presented, right? It's one thing as a business owner to set the guidelines of, at every appointment you need to, set the expectations with the customer. It's one of these steps, right? It's one thing as a business owner to recommend that, or I shouldn't say recommend it, to demand that really of their sales reps. And it's another thing to make sure that they follow through with that. And so one of the really nice things about Leap is that you can actually tell if a sales rep clicked on a specific thing. So did my sales rep set the right expectations during the sales presentation? So as a business owner, it gives a lot of insight into knowing, I put a lot of money and time into these resources, and I have them here for a reason. And as a business owner, I want my sales team to make sure that they're utilizing those PDFs that I have in there as part of the presentation. So having documents is one thing, but making sure that the sales team is executing can be another thing. So it's important that to have that kind of visibility. Real quick before we go on, just gonna pop up a quick poll. If you're on and you'd like to learn more about Leap or Company Cam, I'm gonna turn on a quick poll here before we carry on. Just give everybody a couple minutes or I'm sorry, not a couple of minutes, you don't have that long. We'll give you, 15, 20 seconds here if you want to click on one of those, and then we'll close it out. Michael,
Perfect.
any good?
And Tom,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry, guys. I just wanted to add on real quick and say thank you for all that great information. So just adding on to that conversation on the last slide there about, setting the expectations and building out your kind of what could happen, setting that expectations list. We did get a question in from Evan. Do you think that by outlining these kinds of items that you might be potentially giving the customer a little bit more anxiety about the project versus kind of just giving them expectations on what might happen?
Yeah, I'll take a first stab at it.
Yeah.
I'll go first, Michael, and then I'll definitely let you chime in. You definitely have a potential to give them some anxiety, right? But it's important that as a contractor, you're educating that homeowner on what to expect. And I'd much rather be the contractor that forewarned that homeowner about the possible experience, rather than the contractor that might come in after me that doesn't say anything about it, and then the homeowner asks that contractor and they have to backpedal into that. So I think by being upfront with the homeowner is the most important thing. The last thing you want is to sign a deal with a homeowner, and then you do the project and they weren't expecting you to be banging on the roof at 7 a.m. and they come out yelling and screaming, and now you have a bigger problem than if you would have set that expectation in the beginning. And maybe you don't get that project, but a lot of times by setting the right expectation up front, you're going to make a homeowner that's puts a lot of trust in you, because you're giving them the honest truth and not just what the homeowner wants to hear.
Yeah, I would just add to it. I think that the delivery of that is very important as well. And it's, you definitely could increase the anxiety, but I think of living in the Midwest this time of year. We spend 1 or 2 days or evenings of the year down in the basement hiding from tornadoes. And that's that same thing with my kids. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, and I don't sugarcoat it. I don't lie to them. I don't go just bypass it and say, well, Dad, why do we have to spend the next 4 hours down in the basement potentially? But I also try to present it in a way that it's not that big of a deal. You're getting a new roof. There's probably some underlying anxiety already. But hey, we've got to go down the stairs. We're going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. This is all precautionary. So I think it's just how you deliver those messages. But like Tom said, it's so much better to have forewarned them of something than to surprise them with it. Hey, surprise, you now have to replace 15 sheets of plywood up on your roof.
Yeah, and my experience is that those are the customers that you're going to end up having to you're not going to get paid on right away. There's going to be complaints, and now that you didn't set the expectation here, now they're looking at their bush a little differently, and that looks a little dinged up. It's missing a leaf. So those are the customers generally. When you don't set the right expectation up front, you end up with much more problems in the back end than if you ultimately end up having to pass on the project because they don't go with you.
Absolutely.
That's great. And we actually, while we were chatting here, we had a comment from Jonathan, who is actually a Leap user who has built out kind of a pre-install guideline sheet into their instance of Leap. So it's, and the way they've got it set up is that the homeowners go through an initial, and it kind of accepts off on each individual point and then sign at the bottom. And he says that they haven't had any issues with, anxiety or anything like that from clients. They appreciate the heads up and appreciate the thoroughness. So that's fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing that with us, Jonathan. And I know, speaking from experience on my end, we had a similar issue. I was actually chuckling to myself, Tom, when you mentioned the pictures falling off the walls. We were having a bathroom remodel done, and I should have thought of it, but I didn't. And we had a wine glass rack hanging on the other side, like on the opposite side of the wall. Didn't even cross my mind. And yeah, sure enough, as soon as demo started, had a couple of wine glasses hit the floor and break. So I wasn't mad about it, but it would have been awesome to have that heads up for sure. So I know from a homeowner perspective, I personally think that would be a very beneficial thing to have. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Setting those right expectations is critical to make an happy customer. It also lead obviously to more referrals too, and word of mouth referrals.
Yeah, for
awesome.
Sure.
So Kelly, I know we've got the
Awesome.
Q&A slide up. So I don't know if there's any other Q&As or if anybody else on has any questions for Michael or myself. Or Kelly, please write in and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free, everyone, dropping your questions there. I do have a couple of questions that have come in throughout the presentation. First one coming in from Shasha. Can you use any phone with Company Cam, or do you need any specific kind of equipment or digital camera, anything along those lines?
No, great question. And we've essentially removed the digital camera. So as long as you have an app store, so either the iOS or the Android app store, tablet or phone is going to work just fine. And what is amazing with Company Cam is there's no second step. So it's capture the photo and it goes straight to the cloud in real time. Everybody has access to it, as opposed to if you were using that digital camera, then you're taking the pictures and now you have to go and take the card and you have to upload them and move them. Whereas with Company Cam, it's one click, everybody has access to it, really increase that efficiency.
Perfect. Okay. And then a follow-up question to that coming in from John. Can you only share photos individually on Company Cam, or can you give a customer like access to their file, and can customers upload photos of their own?
Great question. So I'll take the first part of that. You can share as many or as few photos as you want. The 3 ways to share those photos, the timeline, like I had talked about earlier in the presentation, that's going to share every photo unless you tell it not to. So it's going to automatically share the photos with the homeowner. It's a link so that they just see the photos as you're taking them or see the videos as you're taking them. You can share a gallery, which will be a select number of photos that won't ever change. So if I choose 6 photos, those are the only 6 photos that the homeowner is going to get. And then the final thing, and I didn't really talk about it, but I just had the image in there, is you can create a PDF photo report for the homeowner to just kind of show whatever you want to show. That's also great for if you're doing, insurance work or anything like that, being able to share to an adjuster. So that's the first part of the question. As far as the second part goes, there is a workaround to get photos from a client. It's a little clunky right now, but that's actually currently in build on our dev cycle. So I would say in 6 weeks, there's going to be more of a customer portal per se. It's not going to be a full-on customer portal, but ability for the customer to take some photos for then the contractor to look at and see. Great questions.
Perfect. All right, and I know we addressed earlier that currently Leap and Company Cam are not fully integrated at the moment. So can you recommend some best practices on how to get your photos into Leap to use in your digital documents?
Yeah, so I know I've had some companies that have put a link to their Company Cam portal or dashboard within the resource section, so they have access right there to it, so they can go through the different photos when they click in their resource section. So that's one avenue. Another one is to, and I have to check, Michael, do you know if you can you download the photos?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, so you could download them, save them on your iPad, and then upload them into any proposal or attachment as an attachment to a proposal or contract or any other document that you've generated.
I like the link as well, because then it's a step, but it's not very time consuming, and you should be generating that link for the homeowner anyway. So generate the link, paste it into Leap. I think that's a great one.
Yeah. Well, what companies are doing is they've taken the and I don't know the exact terminology, but they're taking their portal link, and once they've logged into that in the resource section, they stay logged in, so it's really nice. And then they're able to access all their projects right from within Leap. So it gives them a seamless ability to view photos and show homeowners their project as they're going through their presentation.
Yep, I love it.
Yeah, great question, Kelly.
Perfect. All right, and thank you, Ben, for sending that in. I hope that answers the question, and feel free to ask in again if that didn't. So another question coming in from Jesse. This one is for Michael, I think. So what is the difference between using Google Drive or Dropbox or something similar rather than, like, as opposed to using Company Cam? Like, what would be the primary thing to kind of set that apart?
Yeah,
You've probably
absolutely.
never gotten that question before, have you, Mike?
I've never gotten that question before. When I first started and I was cold calling contractors, if they said Dropbox, I would always get excited. And I would say the organization is probably going to be one of the biggest things without knowing anything about that company and the size. With Dropbox, you're going to have folders. With Google Drive, you're going to have folders. And it requires that step for your guys in the field to go and find the folder and to put the photos into that particular folder. With Company Cam, it's all GPS driven. So you pull up to a job site, you open Company Cam up, it's going to locate where you are. And as soon as you capture the photo in the field, it goes straight into that project. So there's no extra step for your guys in the field. Lots of little things then that they can do to the photos, mark them up, annotate them. We've got internal communication built to where they can talk back and forth on pictures, mention people. But the big thing is it's just so much more efficient than those others. There's nothing wrong with, Google Drive or Dropbox, but at the end of the day, Company Cam was kind of built as the Dropbox for contractors. It's built for contractors. It's going to work for you guys. So unless you're a one-man operation, it's still going to save you time if you're a one-man operation, but it'll just make that transparency and communication internally so much more efficient.
Okay, perfect. And this, I think Jen just submitted another question, I think, is a follow-up onto that one. The question is, insurance companies don't generally accept links as acceptable. So is there a way to kind of download or attach it directly to an email for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Tom, if you wouldn't mind just going back to the slide that has the timeline on it.
Yep.
So Company Cam, and this is huge for insurance, but if you see there on the right, the reports, so those are going to be PDFs that you generate. They get compressed down so that they're not going to be huge items. And as of yet, I've never had somebody say that they couldn't get PDF over. You can actually even upload these PDFs into Xactimate. So you can go directly to Xactimate. But what's great about these PDFs is if you've ever tried to format something like that in Microsoft Word or a Google Doc, it's impossible, and you'll try to drag and resize the photos. Company Cam's resizing and doing all of that for you. And you can see it's got that professional look. It's going to have your logo. You can add as much information and text as you want on the photos. So just a really easy way. And that would be, I would always start with that link because from the contractor's perspective, that's going to be the easiest way to get photos to an adjuster. But if they say, I can't accept that, no problem, Mr. Adjuster. Let me get you a PDF sent over. It'll take me 2 seconds. Those PDF reports literally take, depending on how much information you put in, a minute up to, you can spend as much time adding information as you want, but you could create one of those in under a minute. Hopefully that answers
Perfect.
the question.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you very much for that. All right. I have a question coming in from Cindy. Cindy's asking, how customizable is Leap? Can I build out my own pricing and add templates? And can you access other resources besides for photos using Leap?
Yeah, it's a great question. Leap is completely customizable. It's almost as if you have a blank slate to work with. Leap wants to digitize your sales process, not make you fit into a template or a box, right? It's going to take your existing the existing way that you estimate a project, and you'll create that into Leap, and so that it's automated and you don't have data errors and you're not duplicating entries. And then you can upload all kinds of resources, PDFs, brochures like manufactured brochures, videos, links, external links, presentations, all of that can be housed in the resource section. So you really customize Leap to your business.
Perfect. That's awesome. Hope that answers the question, Cindy. All right, I've got one more. If anyone else on the line has any questions, feel free to go ahead and add those in there now. So this one is another Leap question coming in from Jody. Does Leap integrate with my CRM, or do I have to like populate data and add the customers in manually?
That's a great question. So one of the big benefits of Leap is that you don't have to take that homeowner's information and enter it 27 times as I did as a sales rep. So yes, Leap integrates with a number of different CRMs. Happy to have a discussion with you on specific ones, but just to name a few: Job Nimbus, Leap Perfection, Improve It 360, Market Sharp, Salesforce. So a bunch of different CRMs, as well as we can link with your Apple Calendar, Google Calendar, those kind of things to pull in information. And then I should say too, on the end of the appointment, you can resolve that so that all that data flows back into your CRM. So all your contracts, your proposals, all that information will live in the CRM.
Perfect. Awesome. I think that's all the questions we have at this time. Michael, Tom, any final words in closing before we wrap up today?
Only thing I would say is, and I'm not sure I can speak for Tom on this, but I'm guessing it Leap's similar in makeup to Company Cam. If you are watching this and you utilize Company Cam and Leap, any information you could share with us, obviously we have a good idea of what an integration would look like and the value that would bring, but any information that you can share with us always makes getting integrations built and done that much easier. Obviously both Company Cam and Leap are open to it. It's just there's so much integration out there and so much dev that goes on. And so if you do use both of us, any information would be awesome.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. Right? We want to make sure that we're bringing value to our customers, and so that we're making your life easier. So absolutely, any feedback that you can share is great. The last thing I'll just want to say, thank you, for everybody joining. And just remember, make sure that you're setting the right expectations and that you're following through on those expectations, because at the end of the day, you want a happy customer and a repeat customer, and referrals. So thanks for joining us. And I'll pass it back to you, Kelly.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And thank you everyone on the line for joining us today. I hope you found that all to be very informative. I think that had a lot of great insights for today's market and a lot of great information about these two products. So if you think of any questions or anything after we leave the call today, feel free to reach out, marketing@leap2digital.com. That will go directly to me, and I'm happy to direct your questions to Tom or Michael, or answer anything that you might have afterwards. As we close out of the webinar today, you'll see a short survey pop up. So we'd love to get your feedback on today's session and hear about if you've got any topics you might be interested in for any future webinars. We're always looking to provide good educational content that will help you guys out in the field. So if you guys could take a moment to answer that as you close out today, I'd greatly appreciate it. So with that, thank you again, Michael, for joining us. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Tom, for being here. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me, guys.
Take care.
See ya.